Welcome everyone, my name is Craig Otto. This is the fourth part to the series of operational excellence and how it's implemented. This is the last part where we talk about the phase of align and the transformation. And from the lead part, the part 3, we talked about how individual focus leads to responsibility, vision, and integrity, which is driven by the systems of daily improvement, visual management, standard follow-up. And then from an organizational standpoint, daily improvement helps with flow. Visual management is that constancy of purpose that Deming always refers to. And then standard follow-up helps you seek perfection. Now, with the alignment, that's sort of the fourth system, if you will, and it's strategy deployment. And that's usually implemented 8 to 10 years down the road because it's very difficult to implement. But one of the things that it does do is it helps your employees have voice. It helps them to be passionate about what they're doing, using their talents, and thriving. And from a organizational standpoint, it also helps them think systemically. And really, those systems are what helps achieve that model that leads to cultural transformation, and really what it's all about. In some of the previous presentations, I've shown you the 5 ages of civilization, and the 5th one, earlier I mentioned that we're trying to get out of the industrial age into this knowledge worker age. And then after the knowledge worker age is achieved, the 5th age, the 5th and final age, is the age of wisdom. And the reason it's called the age of wisdom is when we truly find that we have to look at things from a whole person perspective. And what I mean by that, for example, in the industrial age, we use people for their backs, for their work, for their labor, and that's just using them for their body. You're not using them for their mind, you're not using them for their heart, you're not using them for their soul. And what you're trying to do at the age of wisdom is utilize all 4 of those, because that's how you will truly have voice and truly make a difference and get that gain of productivity. And that correlates to, so from an individual standpoint, it's mind, body, heart, and soul. But that correlates to, from an organizational standpoint, of pathfinding, aligning, modeling, and empowering. So you have a whole person paradigm, but you also have a whole organizational paradigm. Just to build on that a little bit more, Sharpen the Saw. What Sharpen the Saw is all about is understanding that whole person paradigm. Understanding that you have an IQ, and that's the one we hear the most about, but we also have the physical intelligence, emotional intelligence, and spiritual intelligence. And what those correlate to is, from an individual standpoint, that's the top circle. An individual that is driven by conscience will have a good center and will be very trustworthy. And when that person's trustworthy, they can communicate vision, they will have discipline and passion. And those things will drive and correlate into organizational trust and organizational excellence. And you can see the center of an organization that's driven by conscience, they will be models. And an individual that has vision will help an organization pathfind. And someone who has discipline will help align the organization. And then people who are passionate will help empower the organization. So you can see the correlation from individual at the top circle and all the way down to the operational side on the bottom circle. And just to clarify, Sharpen the Saw a little bit more. So physical intelligence is about developing just that, your physical intelligence. Looking at, how's my nutrition? Am I having balanced exercise and consistent exercise? Am I getting the right rest? Am I, having some quiet time for relaxation? How's my stress? A little bit of stress is good. You need a little stress in your life, but stress management, knowing the right amount. and also your preventative thinking. Those are all things that will help develop your physical intelligence. Now, your IQ, that's the one that we develop in college and in school, but it needs to be even more than that. Once we graduate from school, once we're done, you're never done, because you're continuously learning. It needs to be systematic, and it needs to be disciplined, and it's just ongoing. You're never done with school. You have to have the discipline to continue to develop your mind even after you're out of school. Learn by teaching, learn by doing. This is more true in the field of lean than any other. The only way you're going to learn this stuff, you can listen to me tell you about it all you want, but you're not going to learn it until you actually go out and do it yourself and get that experience for yourself. Emotional intelligence, working on understanding your self-awareness and your personal motivations, self-regulation, and then when you're working with others, having empathy to understand them and the social skills that are necessary, developing those things. And then from a spiritual standpoint, creating your own integrity and having meaning in everything that you do, and having that voice. Voices, talents, and passion, overlapping with what the world needs, and that's voice. So, just to drive back to the 5 ages of civilization, when you do those things, when you sharpen the saw and you have voice, that's when you're going to get another 50 times productivity, which is hard to imagine, but it's a new level of thinking. And what I like about it is it's character-based, it's principle-centered, and it's inside out. And what I mean by those things, character-based, you work from 4 assumptions. With the body, you assume that you've had a heart attack, now you live accordingly. For the mind, you assume that the half-life of your profession is 2 years. Now you prepare accordingly. And that's that never-ending learning. For the heart, you assume everything you say about another, they can overhear, and they'll speak accordingly. And for the spirit, you assume that you have one-on-one communication with your Creator, now live accordingly. Those things, if you work by those 4 assumptions, you're going to have character. Principle-centered, the principles of operational excellence. You lead with humility. You respect people. You focus on process, flow, pull, constancy of purpose. Create value for the customer. All those are principles. And then inside out, you focus on yourself first. You work on that personal excellence, and then you can share it with others. So there you have the transformation, and ultimately why we are doing the transformation and what good looks like in terms of the age of wisdom. Just another note on the personal excellence. I mentioned in an earlier presentation that the 5 cancers, which is criticizing, complaining, comparing, competing, and contending, all those things kind of drive towards a negative focus, a reactive focus. Things that are people who are centered on ego tend to become victims and indulge in things, and they're more concerned about their social mirror than anything. And what happens when you have people like that, it creates low trust. And then, with low trust, you don't have a shared vision, your organization is misaligned, and you have disempowerment. And people don't think they can take responsibility. So the point I'm trying to make is you want to have a proactive approach. You want to be driven by conscience, and you want to be driven by principles. And when you do those things, that's what will lead to this ability to influence others in a positive way, and also build on trust. So, and just on that note, with trustworthiness, That is one of the most critical things. When you're trying to make changes without trust, it's not even worth your time. You've got to have trust, and that's where these 7 habits are so critical. And you can see the principles that are associated with those habits. And the more you get to know those and learn those by doing, the better off you're going to be, and the easier your organization is going to be able to be transformed. And you can see, with the 7 habits and being a model for personal excellence, it affects the organization in terms of how its ability of pathfinding, aligning, and empowering. So that's it. That's all 4 phases. And hopefully you've learned now the phases of operational excellence. Again, it's not as easy as what I present it to be. It's a lot of hard work. Building trust is something that takes time. That's why it's 1 to 10 years, because if you're in a rough environment where there isn't a lot of trust, it takes that long. Whereas other environments, maybe it only takes 5 years. But I try to give a typical case. So thank you very much, and look forward to hearing from you soon.